You're 8 years old and you're standing in the hallway outside your parents' bedroom. You can hear them fighting. Again, the same fight they've been having for months. Your mother is crying, your father is yelling, and your little sister is in her room, probably scared. And you make a decision, not consciously, not in words, but somewhere deep in your body, you decide, I need to fix this. I need to make them stop. I need to make everyone okay. So you walk into that room and you say something cheerful, something light. You ask if anyone wants a snack. You smile. You perform normalcy so convincingly that for a moment they stop fighting. They look at you. They adjust their faces. They pretend everything is fine. And you learn something devastating in that moment. When I make myself small and useful and easy, the chaos stops. When I manage their emotions, I earn safety. This is how a child grows up too fast, not in one dramatic moment, but in 1,000 small moments where they learn that their job isn't to be a child. Their job is to be the adult no one else can be. And here's what nobody tells you about that. It doesn't just affect your childhood, it shapes everything, every relationship, every choice, every belief you have about your own worth. Because the child who grew up too fast becomes the adult who can't stop managing, who can't rest, who can't trust that anyone else will hold things together, who carries the weight of the world and calls it strength. But it's not strength, it's survival, and there's a difference. Today we're going deep into the psychology of premature maturity. What happens in the mind of a child forced to become an adult before they're ready, how it rewires their brain, how it shows up decades later, and most importantly, how to finally let that child rest. Before we go any further, I need you to do something. If you're watching this and you already know this is your story, do this right now. Subscribe, like this video, and drop one word in the comments, childhood. Because that's what you deserved, an actual childhood, not a performance, not a survival strategy, an actual protected, age-appropriate childhood where your biggest concern was what game to play, not how to keep your family from falling apart. This community is for people who are ready to stop calling their trauma maturity. Now, let's understand what really happened. The mechanism of premature adulthood. Let's start with the psychology. What actually happens in the brain of a child who's forced to grow up too fast? There's a term for this, parentification. It's when the roles reverse, when the child becomes the caregiver, the emotional regulator, the responsible one, when the parent's needs take priority over the child's developmental needs. This can look different in different families. Maybe you were the mediator between fighting parents. Maybe you were the translator for an immigrant parent who couldn't navigate the system. Maybe you were the caretaker for a sick or depressed parent. Maybe you were the emotional support for a parent going through divorce. Or maybe, and this is the one people don't talk about, you just had parents who were physically present but emotionally absent. So you learned not to need. You learned to figure everything out yourself. You learned that asking for help was burdensome. However it happened, the result is the same. Your developmental needs got bypassed. You skipped the stage where you're supposed to be protected, nurtured, allowed to be messy and needy and age-appropriate irresponsible. And when that happens, something fundamental breaks in how you relate to yourself and the world. Dr. Gabor Mate talks about this in his work on trauma. He says that trauma isn't just what happens to you, it's what happens inside you as a result of what happens to you. And what happens in a child who has to grow up too fast is a fracturing of self. They split. Part of them becomes hyper-competent, hyper-responsible, hyper-attuned to everyone else's needs. That's the part that survives. That's the part everyone sees and praises. But another part, the part that's still a child, that still needs, that still wants to play and cry and be held, that part gets buried, exiled, treated as shameful evidence of weakness. And you spend the rest of your life operating from the competent part while the child part screams silently in the background, unheard. Here's what this does neurologically. When a child is in a safe, attuned environment, their nervous system develops the capacity for regulation. They learn, when I'm distressed, someone helps me. When I'm scared, someone comforts me. When I'm overwhelmed, I can co-regulate with a caregiver until I calm down. But when a child has to be their own regulator, or worse, when they have to regulate the adults around them, their nervous system develops differently. They become hypervigilant. Their threat detection system is constantly active, scanning for danger, for mood shifts, for any sign that things are about to go wrong. They develop what's called a fawn response. They learn to appease, to placate, to make themselves useful and agreeable in order to survive. Their nervous system gets stuck in sympathetic activation, always alert, always ready, never at rest. And this doesn't just go away when you become an adult and leave that environment. This is your baseline now. This is how your body has learned to exist in the world. So you're 35 years old, living in a safe apartment, in a stable relationship, with a good job, and you still can't relax. You still wake up scanning for what needs to be managed. You still feel guilty when you rest, because your nervous system was trained in chaos, and peace feels wrong, dangerous, like the calm before the storm. The masks you learn to wear. Let's talk about the specific adaptations, the masks you created to survive growing up too fast. The hyper-independent mask. You learn to need nothing from anyone. You pride yourself on being self-sufficient. You handle everything alone. You never ask for help. People admire this about you. They call you strong, capable, independent, and you've worn that label like armor. But underneath, there's a quiet desperation, a longing to finally be taken care of, to have someone else carry the weight for once, to not have to be strong. But asking for that feels impossible, because needing feels like weakness, and weakness in your world was dangerous. The peacekeeper mask. You became the emotional thermostat of every space you enter. You can sense tension before anyone else. You know how to diffuse conflict, redirect conversations, make everyone comfortable. You're the friend who mediates fights, the coworker who smooths over difficult meetings, the partner who always knows what to say to calm things down. But this isn't a skill you chose to develop. This is a survival strategy you had to master. And it's exhausting because you're not just managing your own emotions, you're managing everyone else's, and you don't know how to stop. The overachiever mask. You learn that your worth is measured by what you produce, by how useful you are, by how impressively you perform. So you achieve constantly. You hit every goal. You exceed every expectation. You work harder than everyone around you. And people praise you for it. They say you're driven, ambitious, successful. But you're not driven by passion. You're driven by the unconscious belief that if you stop achieving, you'll stop mattering, that love is conditional on performance, that rest equals worthlessness. The invisible mask. This is the quietest adaptation. You learn to make yourself invisible, to take up as little space as possible, to have no needs, no problems, no drama. You became the easy child, the one who never complained, the one who didn't add to the family's burden. And now you're the adult who apologizes for existing, who feels guilty for having emotions, who can't accept compliments because being seen feels dangerous. Notice something about all these masks? They're all about making yourself acceptable to others at the expense of yourself. How it shows up in relationships. Now let's trace this into your adult relationships, because this is where the pattern becomes most painful. You choose people who need fixing. You're drawn to partners who are struggling, who need support, who have problems you can solve. Why? Because that dynamic feels like love to you. Love, in your experience, was something you earned by being useful, by fixing, by caretaking. So a partner who's stable, who doesn't need you to manage their emotions, who's actually available, that feels boring, wrong, like something's missing. What's missing is the chaos, the need, the opportunity to prove your worth through service. You can't let anyone take care of you. Your partner offers to help with something and you immediately deflect. I've got it, don't worry about it, I can handle it. They try to comfort you when you're upset and you shut down. I'm fine, it's not a big deal. They want to do something nice for you and you feel uncomfortable, guilty, like you owe them something in return. Because receiving feels dangerous. It means being vulnerable. It means admitting you have needs, and needs in your world were shameful. You are attracted to emotional unavailability. Here's the pattern you probably recognize. You keep choosing people who can't fully show up for you emotionally. And when someone is actually available, actually present, actually wants to care for you, you push them away. You find reasons why it won't work. You sabotage the connection. Because deep down, you don't believe you deserve to be cared for without earning it. And someone offering care freely feels like a trap, like it can't be trusted. The cost of stolen childhood. Let's be honest about what this pattern has cost you. You don't know how to play. When was the last time you did something purely for fun, not for productivity, not for self-improvement, just for the joy of it? You probably can't remember, because play feels frivolous, wasteful, like something children do, and you stopped being a child at 7. You can't rest without guilt. You're exhausted. Your body is begging for rest. But when you try to rest, you feel guilty, anxious, like you should be doing something productive. Because your worth was never about just existing. It was about what you could do, fix, manage, achieve. So rest feels like failure, like evidence that you're lazy, worthless, undeserving. You don't know what you actually want. Someone asks you what you want for dinner, for your birthday, for your life, and you genuinely don't know because you've spent so long attuning to what everyone else wants that you lost touch with your own desires. Your preferences were never important. They were obstacles to keeping everyone else happy. You're lonely, even in connection. You have people in your life, friends, maybe a partner, maybe family, but you still feel profoundly alone. Because nobody sees the real you. Nobody sees the exhausted child underneath the capable adult. Nobody sees how hard you're working to hold everything together. And you can't show them, because showing them would mean admitting you're not as strong as you pretend to be. Stop for just a second. Put your hand on your chest. Feel that tightness, that ache. That's the child inside you who's been holding her breath for decades, waiting for permission to finally exhale. If this is speaking to something deep in you, leave a comment right now with that word, childhood, and subscribe if you haven't. This community is for people who are ready to stop performing strength and start accessing actual healing. Now let's talk about what healing actually looks like. The path to reclaiming childhood. Here's the truth. You can't go back and have the childhood you deserved. That moment is gone, and grieving that is necessary. But here's what you can do. You can give yourself now what you didn't get then. You can learn to reparent yourself, to protect the child who's still inside you, to finally let them rest. Step 1. Acknowledge what was stolen. Stop minimizing. Stop comparing your trauma to others and deciding yours wasn't bad enough. Stop saying, I turned out fine. You didn't turn out fine. You turned out functional, and there's a massive difference. You had to grow up too fast. You had to carry weight that wasn't yours to carry. You had to be responsible for things no child should be responsible for. That wasn't fair. That wasn't right. And it damaged you in ways you're still discovering. Say it out loud. I was a child. I deserved to be protected. I deserved to have my needs met. I deserved to just be a kid. Step 2. Grieve the childhood you didn't have. This is the step most people want to skip. They want to go straight to healing, to fixing, to moving forward. But you can't heal what you won't feel. You have to grieve. Grieve the birthdays where you had to be the adult. Grieve the moments you should have been playing but were managing crises instead. Grieve the innocence you lost. Grieve the protection you didn't receive. Let yourself cry for that child. Let yourself rage on their behalf. Let yourself feel the full weight of what was taken. Step 3. Learn to identify your needs. You've spent so long ignoring your needs that you don't even know what they are anymore. So start practicing. Throughout the day, pause and ask yourself, what do I need right now? Not what do I should need, not what would make me productive. What do I actually need? Maybe you need water. Maybe you need to move your body. Maybe you need to cry. Maybe you need to laugh. Maybe you need quiet. Maybe you need connection. Practice identifying the need, and then, this is crucial, practice meeting it. Don't just notice you're tired and then push through. Actually rest. Step 4. Practice receiving. This will feel excruciating at first, but you have to learn to let people help you, to let them care for you, to receive without immediately trying to reciprocate or earn it. Start small. Let someone buy you coffee without insisting on getting the next one. Let someone carry something for you. Let someone listen to you vent without you immediately turning it back to them. Notice the discomfort, the guilt, the urge to deflect or minimize or make yourself useful, and sit with it anyway. Let yourself be cared for. Let yourself be seen in your need. Step 5. Set boundaries around your energy. You don't have to fix everyone's problems. You don't have to manage everyone's emotions. You don't have to be the strong one, the responsible one, the one who holds everything together. You get to say, I can't take that on right now. You get to say, that's not my responsibility. You get to say, I need to take care of myself first. This will feel like betrayal, like you're being selfish or cold, but you're not. You're just finally choosing yourself after decades of choosing everyone else. Step 6, reclaim play and rest. Do something purely for fun, no productivity agenda, no self-improvement goal, just joy. Draw, dance, play music, go to a park and swing, watch cartoons, build something with Legos, whatever speaks to the child inside you. And rest, not productive rest, not self-care that's really just more performance, actual guilt-free, unearned rest. Your worth doesn't depend on what you produce. You're allowed to exist without justifying that existence through achievement. What changes when you heal? Let me show you what shifts when you do this work. You stop being the therapist in every friendship. You can just be a friend. You can share your struggles. You can receive support. You can rest without your nervous system screaming that something is wrong. You can be still and it doesn't feel like impending doom. You can be in a relationship with someone who's actually available and it doesn't bore you. You can receive love without constantly trying to earn it. You can play, you can be silly, you can do things that serve no purpose except that they make you happy. You can say no without drowning in guilt. You can prioritize yourself without feeling selfish. You start to understand the child inside you isn't weak for having needs. That child is just, well, a child, and children are supposed to have needs. That's what makes them children. The truth about growing up too fast. Here's what I need you to understand. The maturity you developed as a child wasn't a gift, it was a survival strategy, and survival strategies that work in childhood often become prisons in adulthood. Your hyper-responsibility, your independence, your ability to handle everything, these aren't who you are, they're who you had to become. And underneath all that performance, there's still a child who just wanted to be protected, who wanted to play, who wanted to be loved without having to earn it. That child is still waiting, still hoping someone will finally say, "You don't have to be strong anymore. You can rest now. I've got you." That someone is you. You're the one who has to go back and hold that child. You're the one who has to say, "I'm sorry you had to grow up so fast. I'm sorry no one protected you, but I see you now, and I'm going to take care of you." This is reparenting. This is healing, not fixing, not erasing the past, but finally giving yourself what you deserved all along. You never had a real childhood, but you still have a future, and this time you get to choose. Keep performing strength or start practicing softness. Keep managing everyone else or start caring for yourself. Keep being the adult you had to become or reclaim the child you still are. The choice is yours, and for the first time in your life, it actually is a choice. If this spoke to you, share it with someone who grew up too fast, someone who's still performing maturity while their inner child screams for attention. Leave a comment telling me, what did you have to handle as a child that no child should have to handle? And remember, you're not broken, you're not damaged beyond repair. You're just someone who had to survive impossible circumstances, and you did. You made it. But now it's time to do more than survive. It's time to heal. It's time to let that child finally rest. They've been waiting for you, and they're ready.